Welcome to Sacred Spaces Advanced School of Ancestral Communication. I am Queen Carlenia, and I'm the founder of Project Home Incorporated. Where we are reconnecting our Afro-Rakanu and Afro-Raikaitnut African Black family with our ancestral heritage, restoring our divine connection and organically reclaiming our birthright. I am also the author of Soul Marked for Life. And that word soul means something very specific within our culture. It is the divine consciousness of Mother and Father God that we are given before we enter into this realm. And we are also given an Orisha, a Vodou, um, an Abosom, a spirit force in creation who governs our divine consciousness. And in our culture, we know it is their qualities that we bring into this world. That is the root of our um, that is where we find the roots of our community. That is really where we find our unity as a people. We are a unique people. There's no one like us on the planet. We are the mothers and fathers of humanity. And so there is a way that we are to interact with each other. There's a way that we are to interact with nature. And there's a very specific way that we interact with Mother and Father God and their system of creation, which has never changed from the beginning of time. Man has changed, man has manipulated information and has lied for their own selfish purposes. And that's why we see the world in the condition that we see it today. I had an experience this evening as I was coming back home, passing passing by the train station. I heard a woman, a mother, screaming at the top of her voice. She was angry. And what I saw was that she was on one side of like someone trying to come out of the station, and her little daughter was on the other side. And I didn't know what was going on, but I saw a mother separated from her child, and so I stopped, to see what was happening. I didn't know if she needed money. If that's what it was, I was going to go pay for her to be able to get out so she'd be able to reunite with her child. But there was a white man there who it appeared that he worked with Metro, and he just used his card and passed it over the machine and let her out. And then she went up to the window of the station manager, and she was very upset. She was just yelling and yelling. I know she was talking about a man on the train, but I didn't know exactly what it was. And so I walked further down. I was taking the bus. I walked further down to the bus stop, and a few minutes later I saw her coming towards where I was standing. And so I walked towards her and asked her, was she all right? And she told me, she said, you know what? I was on the train, and she said, I saw this guy on there, and I knew that he was on something. Listen, he was on something. And um and she said she and her daughter went and sat down. And he sat down directly across from them, and there were other people there on the train. He opened his legs and started to do something to himself right there in front of her 7-year-old daughter. Right there in front of her 7-year-old daughter. And she just lost it. And she said there was a white couple that was sitting there, and they were just like, you know, turning their head. And there were some older people. They may not have seen, they heard her, but they may not have seen what he did. And there was a black lady there, and as she got up with her daughter to go sit somewhere else, the lady said, did he do what I think I saw him do? And she said yes. And she was so angry, she moved to another seat. And when she moved to the other seat, he said something to her. Her hair was pink, and something about liking her pink hair. And then he followed them to where they were sitting, and started to do the same thing again, and she just went off, and she was telling me, she said, I was ready to throw him, and she was a little person, but she was like, I was ready to throw him on the train tracks in front of my daughter. She said, what if my daughter was here by herself? Nobody was going to say anything. In our culture, we protect one another. We don't deal with pedophiles. Those individuals are eradicated. And maybe you've seen videos, because they have videos on the YouTube, where, and you may not know why they're harming people. The people may just seem to be minding their business, but if you look a little further in the comments or something, you will find out, oh, they just raped a child, or they almost raped a child. And so this lady, when I saw her, she had she was telling the station manager what had happened, and it was a black woman, and she was very angry. The mother was very angry because she said that lady just was like, oh, okay. She said, but I bet you if it was a white person, she would have had a different response. She said, what do you mean, oh, okay? You're the station manager. I just told you a pedophile is on the train. I just told you he did this in front of my 7-year-old daughter, and I'm sitting right there. She said, where are the police? Why didn't she go to call the police to alert somebody? He's still on that train. We have a responsibility to protect the children. We have a responsibility when we see this disorder to do whatever, to act like her. Because she said, you know what? She said, if that door on that train opened, I was I was ready to throw him on the tracks. And then what? Because if the train hit him and he was killed, then it would have been a problem, right? But it wasn't a problem before. So we live in a society where there's pedophilia. These pedophiles are running around um, freely. And then she was telling me, I didn't know. She said no, DC lets them. They're supposed to be on some list or something, but she lets them change your name, change your identity. She said they're in your schools, at this, at that, and you would never know. She said you would never know. I've never experienced anything like that. I just saw a mom physically, separated from her child, and it caused me to stop. And then when I saw her, it caused me to ask her what happened. But the behavior of the other adults around something so foul, so evil, you hiding your face, you want to act like you didn't see what you saw. He could have harmed the child. Would you have still been hiding your face? The people, because she was graphic, she said exactly what he was doing, and she wasn't quiet about it. She wasn't quiet about it, and she should not have been. And she should not have been the only one that was upset at that. I'm sure there were men on that train as well. Nobody went to remove that man from the train and protect anyone else that was there. And then I said she was little, but she said, I have 4 children. And she said, I will fight to prevent this from her. She said, I'm her mother, and he sat in front of me and my 7-year-old daughter and did this. And then when I proceeded to get up and move, he followed us. So of course she cussed him out and all of that, but she said she was literally ready to pick him up and throw him off the train. And she understood that he knew what he was doing, whether he was on drugs or whatever his problem was. It was no excuse. And we live in a country where, with regards to our people wonder today why is it still difficult a lot of times for people who have been raped to get any, well, you can't get any justice in these courts anyway, but especially with that. That is because this country was built on rape. This country was built on rape. The rape of our women, men, and boys, and girls by these white men in power systematically, the same way they did it with their evil church, hiding them, right? They're always hiding behind robes. So they hide behind their little priestly robes. They hide behind their little Ku Klux Klan robes. Show your faces. Why don't you show your faces? If you're so big and so bad and so bold, show your faces. Do that in the open. They hide behind their judges' robes. Why are they always hiding? You're harming children, the innocent ones among us. You're harming, and you're protecting those in the society that ought to be locked away and given the death penalty for real. And you're hiding all those Epstein files. They locked up Diddy and what, R. Kelly. They did that as a distraction. Let me show you the really bad black men and the things that they do to women. Didn't really show what they did to children. And they will just talk about the victims of Epstein. But who has been arrested for that? And they're running around here free, hiding behind robes in their courts, in their churches, pretending to, what are they pretending? Because we all know that that is not justice. And the silence is deafening. The silence is deafening. That young mother, she was so angry. She was like, this is why I don't like black women. This is why I don't like them. Because something like this happens and you just act like it's nothing. And of course, that's not all black women, but that was her experience. And I saw her. I didn't know why she was saying and acting the way, saying the things that she said and was acting the way that she did. But when a mother can't get any support for protecting her children, we have to know where the roots of that come from in this country. There's rape, there's violence, the killing of innocent children, the torture of innocent children. It's an abomination. And you want to talk about one nation under God. What God? What God? Everything that they've brought us is a lie. Their very existence and the way they portray themselves is a lie. The thing that they're best at is deception. And that's why it's so important for us to embrace our roots. Because when we embrace our roots, there are ways that we handle things like this. And we don't wait for inquiry, for people to set up a meeting to try and discover what is already known. Right? That's what they're good for. Let's set up a task force and let's study this. And it's all a diversion. It is all a distraction. And we are reflecting within our own community. We are reflecting them in our behavior. For another woman, whether she is a mother or not, to feel no compassion towards a 7-year old that was violated like this, to feel nothing. We all know that something has gone terribly, terribly wrong. Where is our sensitivity? Where is our care for each other? Where is our care for the children? We have a responsibility to protect the children. Are they supposed to protect themselves? How are they supposed to protect themselves? And I understand that some of us are at a loss because we don't know how to protect ourselves. And if we don't know how to protect ourselves, what do we expect of the children? That's why we have a right and a responsibility, a right and a responsibility to Sankofa, to go back, to look back. That proverb that's over 40,000 years old, it says, if you forget and you return to your ancestral past to understand, it is not taboo. Never forget. Never forget. We have forgotten. And that's why something like that could happen. We're so used to ignoring women. We're so used to having Black women ignored, talking about, oh, the angry Black woman. So what if white people think that we're angry Black women? So what? Who cares? Who cares? They don't. So why do we care about them not caring? No, it's time for us to be ourselves. It's time. You see what that young lady did? That was necessary. It was needed. It was needed. Because you know what? Anger moves things. You let people walk over you, let society walk over you time and time again. But when you say enough is enough, they back up. They back up. But they would like us to feel badly about being angry. No, we have a right to be angry. And we have a right to express our anger. We have a right to express our emotions, because that is a form of manipulation. It is a form of control. So we have our women walking around afraid to be themselves, afraid to be perceived in a certain way, bowing to a foreign God. And the foreign God, I'm talking about the white man. I'm talking about white supremacy. I'm talking about racism, bowing to that, trying to act in a way that appeases our open enemy. For what? For what? Where has that gotten us? Where has it gotten us? It's time to get angry, because when you get angry, things move. When you get angry, things stop. People stop messing with you when you're angry. They back up because they don't know what you're capable of. And as much as these people have moved against our people, they are really afraid of what we are capable of. They have seen nothing. But it's time for us to protect the children. It's time for us to stop being so complacent. They're trying to fit in. Everything is trying to fit in. What is being professional? What is that? Acting? So when you go home, you can just breathe and be yourself. But when you're in a certain place, you have to act a certain way. Everything is an act. Everything is an act because they're a lie. Everything is an act because they are a lie. And we're acting like them. Our behavior, our very behavior, when we're acting as something other than who we are, is a lie. So it's time for us to return to our roots so we know how to protect ourselves. We know how to protect our children. We know how to rebuild and restore our community. Ashe.